Okay, we'll select both of those. I just want to move them over a little. And now we can edit and duplicate them one more time. Move them in just a little bit. Okay, let's create a blueprint from these. Square rail ironwork. We'll call this one small rail multi-iron, I think, to match the initial mesh we imported. So small rail multi-iron underscore prefab for prefab. I'm putting it in our blueprints folder. Alright, that looks good. Alright, so just to recap again, we've reused two of the assets here in Max, the normal railing sections, to make two new pieces that have some wrought iron sections. So now we have 4 different types of railing that we can work with when we rebuild the level in Unreal. All rails, and then some that have some wrought iron in them to better match the square banister piece here in the middle and the railing sections we're adding to the stairs. And because we're reusing the same materials or the same textures between them all, we're only really using very few textures on many pieces of geometry, but they still look quite unique. People are not going to notice that the texture we're using up here is the same texture we're using over here, or that texture is the same as that texture. You know, if you're making a game, people are not going to notice that as they're running through your level or whatever. It's just not going to be noticeable. Even if they took the time to look, they're generally not going to clue into that. It's the same reason when we reuse the same texture here between these 5 different pieces of geometry. The column, the decorative wood paneling, they all use the same texture, but people are not going to clue into the fact that you're using the same texture over and over again. But you're going to be saving a lot of memory for your game. So reusing textures, duplicating geometry, so you're reducing your polygon counts and creating modular pieces of geometry so that you can instance them, duplicate them basically around the level. Let's save all of that. Alright, let's jump back into Max. And jump out of isolation mode. Okay, let's move our assets to the background so that we know that we've done them. So it's going to pop those ones back there and pop these ones back. Pop you back as well. Let's save our Max file because, you know, I don't trust Max. I have autosave turned off, so I have to do saves manually. I must remember to do it. No problem, Sniper Echo. Thanks for popping in and saying hello. You're quite welcome, Sniper Echo. Like I said, thanks for popping in and saying hi. I'm glad you're feeling a bit better. And yeah, I'll see you later in the week, hopefully. Cool. I'll see you tomorrow, Sniper Echo. Alright, now we have to work on another piece of geometry. What should we do next? I want to leave the floor sections for now. I do want to take them into probably Mari for the floor sections to retexture some of these assets. Again, some of the texturing work on them is pretty bad. So let's work on something else. The chandelier too, that's quite a... we'll leave that to another time. We will do it, but just not today. It's a complex piece of geometry. I want to get away from doing stairs for now because we've done enough work here at the moment for today on stairwell sections. We'll leave that for another day. Let's bring the rug in, I think, because the rug doesn't really need much change. The texture it's using is fine. It's just a square, a rectangle that I've added a little bit of ruffle to here and there to make it look like the rug's been pushed up as people have walked on it. It's difficult for me to see here. Hang on. Maybe if I pull in a bit here, you can see it in that corner over there. And just here in these corners, it just looks so the rug is not completely flat. It has a bit of three-dimensionality to it, just adds a bit more interest and realism to it. And again, it's hard to see in the viewport, but there are folds that run through the rug. That again just adds a bit more believability to the rug as opposed to using just a flat plane. It's very rare that a rug will sit completely flat unless people have just fixed it to make sure it's sitting flat. Usually a rug will be pushed up here and there in spots where people have walked on it and pushed the rug up. And that'll just add a bit more believability to the rug itself. Hopefully you can see that on stream. So the rug doesn't really need any work done on it. No, the texture itself I don't mind, so let's take that in. We're calling this one Rug Gold. It's because I use about 3 different rugs in that level. There are a couple that hang on the walls as well, which aren't actually in my asset list here. I must have forgotten to place them. But we'll do this rug for now. So Rug Gold. But let's make sure by doing set it to object and a reset X form to make sure nothing strange is going on. Let's export it. Again, we're going to make a new folder so everything is nice and organized. Calling it Rug Gold. Doing those folds is going to increase your poly count a bit as opposed to just using a flat plane, but not enough that what you're going to gain from realism is the extra polys are worth it because of the extra realism you'll get in the look of the rug, and it's not going to increase it huge amounts anyway. Okay, let's just export that. Now I do want to check the texture on this because I do want to create a normal map and an occlusion map for it. So I'm going to find the texture that's using. It's probably a Targa as well. Yep, Rug Gold text. I'm going to jump into Photoshop again. I should have left it open, shouldn't I? Yeah, I'm just going to come on Photoshop. So I'm looking for Rug Gold text. Where are you? This one here. We're just going to save the Targa out as a PNG. We'll call it Rug Gold text, that's fine. Alright, let's jump into null now. Open up our color map. Find our rug texture. Again, I'm going to change the cylinder to a plane. Let's make sure that our path here is correct. Alright, let's play with our normal maps now. I'm going to pull up on the intensity here. Pull in on the extra fine detail. We'll pull up on the fine detail. You can see what's happening here, and if you look at the 3D viewport, as I adjust these, you can see what's happening there. It's easier to look here than it is to look here at the actual normal map. You'll get a better idea of what's happening if you look at the actual mesh. We'll pull up on the fine detail a little bit, medium detail, maybe a little bit less. The large and the extra large detail on this texture map are not really going to give us a lot. It's the extra fine detail that's going to give us the most effect. You don't want to pull it up too much either though, like I said. Otherwise you're going to get your texture map, your normal map object looking like it's wrapped in plastic. So just a little bit. And you can always play with the overall intensity as well. I think that should be good for what we want. Remember to update the integrator in null so that we can get our height map and our ambient occlusion. And let's export that. Jump into Unreal. Import the FBX we exported from Max. Again, smoothing group, we're not using smoothing groups. Okay, let's fix our texture, our material I should say up. So again, I'm going to Control C and copy the texture sample and paste it in 2 more times. We have to import our normal map and our occlusion map, so let's do that. So the normal map and the occlusion map. Again, just for people that are curious as to why I have a convexity and a height map, I always save them out even if I don't use them, because a height map is really useful in Unreal to do parallax mapping, and a convexity map can be used to do roughness or metallic, so shininess. So even though this rug won't be using them, I have them just in case. It doesn't hurt to have them just in case you do want to use them later down the road. So we're only interested in the normal map and the occlusion map, so let's pipe our normal map in here. And we're going to pipe the occlusion map down the bottom. And we're going to plug our normal map into our normal slot and our occlusion map into our ambient occlusion slot. We'll save our material or our shader. We'll open up our mesh here. Now, I'm just trying to work out if our mesh may be, our normals may be incorrect again, because you see that the texture is looking very dark. Let's jump back into Max. I'm just going to check my normals here. So I'm going to select the mesh. I'm going to put down a normal. No, it actually looks like it's inverted here now. May just be looking darker because of the angle in Unreal. So if I flip my normals, I know in Max, when the mesh goes dark like that, the normals are the wrong way around. We will unify the normals to make sure. I'm I'm going to throw down and edit normals so I can visually see what's going on with the normals. Doing a unify in Max using the edit normals, you see what's happened when I did that? The normal maps were laying flat. Normal maps should not lay flat, they should be pointing out. So doing a unify in the actual edit normals modifier as opposed to just the normal modifier in Max fix that problem. So let's collapse our stack. We'll re-export the mesh one more time. Let's jump back into Unreal and re-import that model again. And now you see that our rug is not looking dark. Again, every time you see your mesh in Unreal look really odd, like the material's looking very dark, like shadowed, it's always a normal map problem. And the problem here was the normals weren't flipped or inverted. The normals were laying flat across the polys. Normals should never lay flat. They should always stick out from the polygon, not lay flat across the polygon. So in this instance, it wasn't a problem with the normals being inverted. It was a problem with the normals laying in the wrong direction. So we have our rug. Let's pull that into the level. As I pull this up, you can probably see more easily the folds that I was talking about. So you see what I mean by having some folds in the actual plane object itself, so it's not just a complete flat plane. And that just adds a bit more believability to the object itself when you place it in your level. It'll look more natural. Okay. Again, let's do a save all. We'll jump back into Max. Alright, let's take... Now again, I hate this texture. I don't know what I was thinking when I made this texture. It's just terrible. This yellow and purple, it's just gross. I'm going to swap that texture out, but I haven't chosen what I want to put there yet. But this texture I don't mind. This one will work quite well. So again, let's export this and bring it into Unreal. I'm not making any changes to the texture or the mesh. The mesh is fine, the texture will be fine. These are the curtains that I think are on the lower level and the upper level. These curtains were in the main section before we got to the stairwell and our fly-through. So let's export our first curtain piece here. And again, I'm exporting one. I'm going to duplicate it and rotate it to make the curtain on the opposite side. So we only use the polys once from and the textures once from this object, and we just duplicate it and rotate it. We're going to call this one... we'll call it curtain 1. How about that? We'll call it curtain... I'll call it curtain grey, even though it's not really grey. And I'll call the other one whatever colour I make the new texture. Again though, before I do any of this exporting, I'm going to make sure that my pivot is centered. And I'm going to do a reset on the X-form. And we'll do a collapse. Okay, now let's export that model in its own folder, so we go have good housekeeping. Okay. Now these curtains actually have ties on them as well. Now I don't have it here on this one, but I do on this one. these gold ties. I want to export that as well, so that I can create a blueprint once we bring this into Unreal. So it's just called curtain tie, that's fine. We're going to do the same thing again though. We're going to make sure that the pivot is centered and the X-form is reset. I just collapsed my stack so it's back to and actually that's an edit mesh. I'm going to make it an edit poly. I should have checked this one actually. And again, I'm going to go into vertex mode and make sure that my verts are actually welded. I'm not going to go quite as high with the weld on this because it's a smaller object, so 0.4 should be enough. And again, I know that if I select everything and it all gets selected that it's correct. But again, I'm looking at this and it looks to me like the normals are inverted because my shadowing, red shading is very dark. So let's check that by throwing down a normal. I'm going to flip, actually before we throw down the normal, let's go back into sub-object mode. So we can see what's going on. Let's throw down a normal. Now, flip normal is turned on by default, and you see how that made that shadow shading much redder? That means that the normals are facing the correct direction now. They were inverted before, but we are going to unify them again and collapse our stack. Okay, let's do an export. We're going to create a new folder. I'm just going to call it curtain tie and export our curtain tie. Now I'm just going to check the first curtain to make sure it's not a mesh. No, it looks like it's a poly, so it should be good. I'm going to double check too though to make sure that the normals are correct, and the normals look fine. Alright, let's jump into Unreal and import that curtain. Curtain grey, that's the one. Again, smoothing groups I'm not concerned with. Alright, let's make sure we have our material set up correctly. So what I want to do is jump back into Max and find the material that is using through my material editor, just by using the color picker. It's this one here. It'll be a Targa again. So curtain fab B for fabric B text. Okay, back into Photoshop. Let's open up that texture. Curtain fab A, curtain fab B, this one here. We're going to save it out as a PNG file. We'll leave it called the same thing so we don't get confused. Alright, let's jump back into Null so we can create our normal map and our occlusion map. And that's the one we want there. I'll leave it as a cylinder here, not a plane, while I make my adjustments, but let's make sure we set our path correctly. Null remembered the last settings we used for the rug, and that's probably going to be pretty good for what we want here for the curtain as well. I don't think we really need to make any adjustments here to our normal map settings. But we do want to update the integrator. Make sure our ambient occlusion looks right, and that's fine. And export. Back into Unreal. I'm going to import those texture maps. I want the color because at the moment it's brought in the texture map, which is Targa. I want to make sure I'm using an FBX, and I want the ambient occlusion and the normal map. Let's open up the material that was automatically created when we did the import of the FBX model. Again, I'm going to Control C and Control V to paste in 2 more texture samples. I'm going to select the texture at the top here, and I'm going to swap it out from using the target texture to the PNG texture. Just going to double check what that one is. That's the Targa one. Looks like I may have imported the wrong texture here. I imported the height information. I don't want that. I'm going to delete that one and import the PNG color texture that we exported. Yeah, I pulled in the height. I don't want height. Back into models, Art Deco building, export, no, not exports, Art Deco building, Deco model, and that's the one we want. Do you want to override the existing asset? Yes. Yes. Double check that it's used the right one now. Yep, good. So let's open up our material again. I forgot to save it, so I have to make that copy texture sample twice more again. Alright, let's pipe in our normal map and pipe in our ambient occlusion map. Plug them up to normal and ambient occlusion. Wait for it to recompile the shader and save it. Alright, now let's open up our asset here. And we have our curtain in Unreal. Now again, you see at the back here, what I've done is I've removed the polygons from the back of the object. And that's to save on polygon counts, because you're only ever going to see the curtain from the front here. You're never going to actually see it from the back. So there's no point in having polys here in the background, because it's going to double your polygon count. So when I made the asset, I removed all the polys from the back, because that's going to be sitting up against a window, a wall. You're only ever going to see it from the front. All right, let's look at the tie now, the curtain tie. I have a feeling it's using a target texture as well. So I'm just going to jump quickly back into Max. Open up my material editor and check what texture that is using. And that is using, I think it's using the top part of this texture here. And that's called ropegold.text. Alright. Back into Photoshop. Let's open up the old texture. Ropegold.jpg. No, we'll make it a we'll make it a PNG, not a JPEG. You could use JPEG, but JPEG is lousy. You're going to lose information. PNG, you won't. Color information. Now I've just got to find that now. This one here. Let's save it as a PNG file. ropegold.txt is what it's called. Okay, let's jump back into Nulled, load up that PNG we just exported. Pull back a bit here. And again, I'm probably not going to change anything to do with the normal map. It should be fine. We're just going to make sure we set our path correctly. We'll leave it under, no, actually we made a separate folder, didn't we? So curtain tie, that's the one. Make sure we update the integrator though before we do that, and export. Let's jump into Unreal and import that curtain tie. Actually, before I do that, I want to import the PNG color texture we just exported. Okay, now let's import the mesh. Again, a smoothing groups, which we're not worrying about. Let's find the material that was automatically created for that, which it will be this one here. Again, it's using the target texture. It's swapped out my PNG for target. So I'm going to re-import my PNG color texture map again. Yes, I want to overwrite. Yes, I'm sure. Alright. Okay, let's copy our texture sample 2 more times. Let's save that. We have to import our normal map and our occlusion map for that gold rope. So we want the normal map and the occlusion map. Back into our shader again. We're going to load up our normal map and we're going to load up our ambient occlusion map. Let's plug those in. Wait for it to recompile the shader and save it. Alright, now let's find our curtain tie. Here we are. I'm just checking to make sure the normals are looking correct, and they are. That should be fine. Alright, let's create a blueprint for our curtain now, so let's drag the curtain in. Let's drag the curtain tie in. I'm going to jump into my top viewport here again just to get the initial alignment correct. Back into orthographic. Now, by all means, I could have attached the curtain tie to the curtain, but doing it this way, again, I can keep instancing that piece of geometry, so we reuse the same mesh and the same textures over and over again. It just saves on some polygons for us. And once we, even though it's fiddly here to position correctly, once we do get it positioned, then we can create a blueprint so we don't have to muck around with it again. And it is quite fiddly, these little ties. Wait, I think I might jump into my orthographic. It might be easier for me. Now I've got to remember which way these are facing. That's the back, that's the front. Let's do a bit of a rotation, I think. I'll jump back into my orthographic. Move that over a bit, and may even scale it up a little bit as well. That should work for what we want. I'm just going to make sure it's positioned correctly here in the corner. All right. Let's select both of those objects and go into our blueprints and convert selector to blueprint. I'm going to call this one grey curtain underscore prefab. Create a blueprint. All right. Let's just rotate that around, and we're good. We may leave it there for today, guys. We've created our blueprints. We can continue on with working on the rest of the models. I'll be back on again tomorrow. Remember, I stream every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time in the United States. So I will be back on again tomorrow. I do want to thank you guys very much for hanging out with me and for watching. I do appreciate it. If you're not sure when I'm live, you can always keep an eye on my Twitter page at PhilDoes3D. I always post 15 minutes before I go live to Twitter. But like I said, my schedule does not change. I'll be back on again tomorrow because I stream every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time in the United States. Again, thank you guys very much for hanging out and for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. See you guys.